Hi everyone, welcome to Polymer Clay TV. I'm Kira and today I am going to make this fairy door with you and show you a bunch of different surface techniques that are really simple, quick, and easy to do to get it to look like a wood door with stone, a little bit of moss, and your wooden door stoop there. So I just wanted you to know that it's Valentine's Day is coming. Next episode, I'm going to do something with this paper mache heart, and we actually put together a fun kit for you over at createalong.com. So let's get started with our techniques. My idea for today was to show you how to make a fairy door with lots of different surface techniques using this mold. And then eventually, I'm going to use this large paper mache hollow heart and cut a hole in it and hinge that door so that it will open so you can see something inside the heart. That is going to be a topic for my next YouTube video because it will take way too long to do this with the door and the hinge. So for today, I'm going to use this enchanted heart fairy door. Home is where the heart is, I think is what this one's called. And some Sculpey Souffle. I'm going to use chocolate or a chocolate brown color that's actually called Cowboy. And this is Mocha. This is another good color, but I'm going to use the darker one so that I can do some antiquing on the fly. I'm going to use some Pearl-Ex powders and pan pastels. This is Sculpey Bacon Bond, which will help me to get the door onto the heart eventually. And these are Sculpey liquid clays. I've got silver and pearl. And we're going to play with those, and then we're also going to learn about this awesome medium called micaceous iron oxide. How do you fill a mold like that? It's pretty big. It's shallow, but not too shallow. Well, I just rolled out a piece of clay to a number 1 on my pasta machine, and I'm going to put it over the mold, rip off the extreme excess there, and start pressing it in. And I'm going to make sure that I get it into those pockets there where you've got the stones going around the edge, which then of course you can kind of fold your clay back on itself to fill in those edges. So you see, like, that's how I like to do it, by starting with a nice clean slab on one side, so then I know that I'm filling the mold and I'm not getting any lines or seams or crevices or anything on the other side, because I started with a piece of clay that was relatively smooth. I can tell I'm getting a little bit of air pocket underneath there, so I'm just going to pick it up and smush it down again. Really all I care about is that I'm getting all those fun little details, like the heart on the door, and that behind my stones I actually do have enough clay to hold everything up in the end. Where I can tell that I've really overfilled it, I'm just going to shave it a little bit. And I'm not going to worry too much about this or about how the back looks right now. On a piece like this, you can always decorate the back later, however you want it to look, and then rebake it. Okay, so we're going to transfer this onto a tile, which I have a tile sitting right here. So that's kind of the easy way to demold a big thing like this, is to press it onto the tile. And then just peel off the mold. Isn't that cute? Now to do the hinged door, you would want to cut the door out. We're going to go ahead and do our surface techniques. So first I'm going to use my pan pastels and I'm going to highlight the wood of the door. See that? All that wonderful powder. And because I started with this dark brown clay, when I go over it with the pan pastels, now I'm getting this wood look and it's almost instant because your pan pastels are completely opaque. And they're kind of a flat color. They're just really nice for doing this faux wood look. So I'm tapping off the excess in the cap so that I don't get it sort of all globbed on there. And I don't care if I get it around on the stones because of what I'm going to do next. I don't care if I get it on the hardware of the door either, because that's all going to be painted with the micaceous iron oxide in just a second. We're going to paint with the micaceous iron oxide before we bake. And that way it's going to bond really nicely to the clay and it's going to look awesome when we're done. So I'm just going to paint it right onto the rocks. And if you want to, you can even use your paintbrush to sort of give it some rocky texture. You can put it on a little thick. You can poke with your paintbrush to stipple it so that it's not like this smooth, perfect clay look anymore. It looks like stones, which is the intention that I have, is to make mine look like rocks. Let's talk for a second about this micaceous iron oxide and mediums and cost and all that kind of stuff. This is a rather expensive medium as far as they go. I think this was around $15 for this little bottle. It's 4 ounces. However, I'm going to say 2 things about it. Michael's 40% off coupon, and I have had this bottle, which is about 2/3 full still, since I think 2003. So a little goes a long way, and unless you get really into this technique of making this faux stone look, if you buy a bottle of this, you will have it for a very long time for doing little projects like this. So I'm going to bake this now, and then we'll talk about the rest of the techniques. Now we're going to do some magical fun stuff with the micaceous iron oxide, which is, this is all baked and dry and ready to play with. So you can see, maybe, that it's got some texture to it, and in the sunlight it sparkles with a sort of oil slick look. The paint has several different colors in it. So what we're going to do is take that same paintbrush that is now dry, and it's sort of a stiff brush, and that's partly because I've got paint and stuff stuck in it, but that's okay. I use this one for this type of thing because it's stiff. So I'm going to take my Pearl-Ex, and here is my antique gold color. And I'm going to use this on the steps, and I'm going to scrub it into this paint. And it is going to give it that extra mica and some color. And then I'll use this nice fluffy brush to kind of get the excess out of there. And this is what I have now. So the bottom doorstep here has been converted to a sort of golden color. And here's a trick for you. If you're using a brush and your powders and you have a silicone mat or a silicone mold handy, the silicone will grab the excess right off of your brush. So you can kind of clean your brushes with that back of that silicone mold. So let's get a little of this. Can't see what I'm doing. Hang on. What I'm doing is I'm grabbing powder and tapping off the excess into the cap, and I'm just going to sort of highlight the fronts of the stones with this extra silver powder. And then I've got this spring green color that I thought would be fun because it would be kind of mossy. So I could do like a little moss growing. And just do little touches of green. So what you want to do is just keep sort of pressing and scrubbing color in the areas where you want it until you're happy with how your stones look. Now if you wanted to do a sort of faux raku, if you want to do bead making or something because making a fairy door isn't your thing, this technique works really well to make your piece look like it's ceramic with colors on it. And it's so easy. So you just keep working that until you are happy. And I'm good with this, so I'm going to move on to the next technique. I thought it would be fun to do two things with my Pearl Sculpey Liquid Bakeable clay. And here I have a dedicated thin paintbrush that I only use with liquid clay because if you use a regular brush, you're just going to kind of wreck it. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of this and I'm going to sort of put it in between the rocks. I just thought it would look cool as sort of a mortar. So I'm just going to work on that a little bit, just a tiny bit. Now they do have a squeeze tip, but I like to use a brush, especially here because I'm going for a sort of thin, mildly messy line. So I'm just going to brush it into place. I also thought it would be kind of fun to put this in the little heart-shaped window, so I'm going to paint it in there. And these colors, if you put them on relatively thickly, they are pretty opaque and sparkly when they're dry. Don't be afraid to put your work on a tile or a piece of parchment paper or something so that you can move it around to get the best angle for you. I'm right-handed, and this is, working on it in this direction is easier than leaving it stuck to my table and trying to move my hand all around. So I can just flip the tile around instead. Especially when you're working on small details like this. So for cleaning your brush, you're just going to want to keep a paper towel around and just wipe off the color. And like I said, this is so now we are going to just use this nice bright silver color to paint my doorknob. And it'll give it a little different texture from everything else that's going on. And my little door hardware. And when you're doing something like this, it's the little details that count. So you want to take your time and just decide, how can I make it look more real? How can I add a detail here or there that will really bring it together. My clay, my liquid clay is a little thick and cold. It's cold, so it flows a little better in warm weather. I got myself a thin sock needle, and this is just because my liquid clay is a little thick and I want to sort of make sure that my details aren't getting destroyed by the thickness. So I'm just gonna take a little bit off where the hardware comes together there, just to make that differentiation where the lines are. Since everything else is antiqued, I want to be able to see the details in the hardware too. And then, because it's a fairy door, it can't be complete without a little bit of glitter. So I've got just some sparkly glitter. This is Jonestones. I don't know if they're making that anymore, but I have a lot of it, so why not use it? So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little in the heart. I don't want it everywhere, but I thought in the little heart there would be cute. So this is just going to go back in for a final baking to set all the liquid clay. Okay, we are out of the oven and we can take this off the tile and take a look at it. So we've got that gentle little sort of mortar between the stones and the glitter is all baked in there. And I'm just going to add one more little detail while I'm working on this. So the stoop here, I feel now blends in too much. So I'm going to add a little patina. This is a Ranger product. It's patina, it says for all metal, but you know what? It works really great on polymer. And it is a opaque and kind of shiny paint. So I'm just going to touch it with my finger where I want it to go on the bottom stoop here. And then I'm going to call it a day. So while it's a little bit wet, if you got too much on one spot or whatever, you can always use a tool to scrape it back. And then when it's dry, of course, you can do that as well. So there are so many different ways to get surface techniques on your polymer clay. I hope that you have enjoyed this and that you'll come back next time when I make the door hinged and I put it on my paper mache heart. Thanks for creating along with Polymer Clay TV.